Hello everyone, Dana here from Discovery with another episode of Small Science. Now, we often talk about the questions that children ask, but I thought today we'd talk about the questions that adults and educators ask to children. So why are the questions that adults and educators ask children important? Well, as we discussed in a previous episode, questions help children make sense of the world around them, whether that's the children themselves asking the questions or the teachers. So questions are really important for science, technology, engineering and mathematical processes, and children and adults can help scaffold children's learning with those questions. Put simply, good questioning challenges children to think. Basically, there's three key features of good questions that adults can ask. The first one is that it's not a rote answer. It's not something that children have memorized, and it's not a yes or no answer. So good questions, as I said before, challenge children to think. So they have to think through their answer for you. The second feature of a good question is that both the asker and the answerer learn something from it. So the adult asking the question may not know the children's ideas about that, so that question might help them learn more about the child, or even learn things themselves that they didn't previously know. And the child will have to go through their thinking and exploration to find the answer to the question that they might not have known either. And the last feature of a good question is that it should be open-ended. Yes and no questions don't really engage that higher order thinking. Here are some tips to help you ask good questions to children. The first thing is to listen to what the children are really saying and observe what they're really doing. So your questions follow their interests, and your questions are something that they want to find out the answer to. The questions you should ask should always be genuine. So we know when someone really isn't interested in the answer to the question they're asking, and children know that too. And something that's really important is always giving children the time to respond to your question. And don't ask a question and straight away expect an answer or move on to the next thing. Give the question time to sit, time to engage with prior learning before the children answer it. So there's some really easy question stems, which we all already know, that are actually quite valuable for asking good questions. And they're things like who, what if, where, how. And starting questions with these can be really good for kind of starting investigations. And a fantastic question, I think, for anyone is simply, how can we find out? How can we find out more? That leads to some really good, authentic learning. So my last thing to say on this issue would be, if you get a response to a question that you didn't quite expect, tread sensitively. No one likes to be made a fool of, and that doesn't matter if you're 30, 60 or 3 years old. If you get an answer that you didn't really expect, maybe think of how you can reword your question in a way that might make sense. Okay, so that's the end of our quick questioning session today for Small Science. Next week we might talk about the questions that children ask, because all questions are important. Okay, if you have any comments or suggestions, let us know below. Bye.